Hey everyone, welcome to the Making Comics check-in with myself, Chris McQuinlan, and the ever beautiful, luscious locks, Marshall Lee.
How you doing?
How are you, dude? How's that hair looking this week? Is it still growing?
Oh, it's long and beautiful
Oh,
and just like you said, I'm
gorgeous.
trying to get I'm trying to get my what's that guy's I'm trying to get like my inner Lionel Richie to come out with my hair here.
Oh man, you need some. What is it? What's that in Coming to America? Is it Soul Glow? You need some Soul Glow.
Yeah, I do. I need that.
I'll talk to Eddie Murphy and see if we can arrange it. So we unfortunately missed an episode last week due to just some scheduling conflicts. We're just both a bit busy, or nothing serious. Just missed out on a week, which is a shame. So we're sorry that we sort of didn't inform you guys, but we are back this week. We have still been making comics. In fact, I think over the last 15 or 16 episodes, from what I can gather between the two of us, we have been hustling like mad bitches getting hella comics done. And I'm really excited to actually talk about what we've done because I've seen what you've been doing on social media and I know what I've been doing. So it seems like we are going to, sort of nail this check in this week. So let's start with you, Marsh. How was your week, or how was your 2 weeks? Did you accomplish what you wanted to accomplish? And given that we had the additional week, do you feel like you sort of rolled over into the next week and continued on?
Yeah, well, the first week I don't now I don't really remember that well, but I know I got a lot of work done. I was rocking and rolling kind of as usual with the comics and stuff, and all went well. I can't remember if I read comics or not, but yeah, I don't know, but I did all right. And then it's been just kind of working hard on to try to get this comic finished up. But this week, I kind of like barely did my half an hour every day. I mean, I did it, but there was times I got like an hour or so and whatnot, but then like a lot of times during the week I wasn't able to because I just couldn't get to the computer. And that's where the Darby Cufflink comic is going on. Luckily, I mean, I was very close to being done, but um it's funny, like I say I'm close to being done all the time, but there's so much you don't think of, and like as much as I feel like I was close to being done, it still ended up taking me like a lot of hours this weekend to really finish it up. And so close to done is very relative, the term. Um,
It's good to
but
see that even though you've noticed those little additional things, that it hasn't put you off um, just going with the bare minimum. You're actually going out of your way to make sure that those things get done. Or is it one of those things that you can't really work around it regardless?
well, the thing is that's kind of tough is that I did this was it's kind of a really big deal. This was my first time doing a fully digital comic,
Hmm.
um, which is really cool because I got to learn a lot, and it's just good to experience that, and learning Clip Studio and learning how to use this tablet and all that stuff. So that's really cool. One of the takeaways though is that I it's hard for me to like make make digital my like make a comic digitally primarily because I only have so much time in front of the computer, and depending on what happens from week to week, I might have very little time in front of the computer. But I always at least have time to do traditional. It's easier to find time for that because I don't have to be at my desk here at home. You know, so this next comic I'm doing is going to be mostly traditional. Um, but you know, I don't know. I feel like I want to go back and forth and keep practicing digitally, but you know, sometimes I guess if it's a shorter story, then cool, but if not, like this was a 9 page thing, so like, you know, that was a lot to do in kind of a month. I mean, I did start a little bit before, maybe it was a month and a half, but for somebody who has very limited time, that's a lot to do in a
Yeah,
month.
pretty
And so I mean, and you know, it does kind of reflect in like when you look at it and read it, you know, like I've said throughout this whole process, this isn't, you know, me trying to do my best artistic work. This is me trying to get a comic out in this period of time.
yeah,
And also like I'm going with a cruder style purposefully because I'm experimenting with different styles and stuff, and I've been really enjoying cruder styles that play with design and are still very interesting design wise, but they have like this crudeness to them. There's people like Jim Mahfood and Corey Lewis who do that purposefully. You know, they obviously are really good artists, but like, you know, they purposefully have like a cruder style, and it's got more energy to it because of it in some ways.
yeah,
um, so I always am very attracted to a sketchy, even from the beginning. You know, I started off mostly especially being a huge fan of Rob Liefeld, and you know, he's far from trying to be a perfectionist when he makes art. And you know, but there's something about the energy he was able to get, and I also just like the sketchy line he was using and stuff a lot of times. There's some obvious discrepancies that were a little too far, but you know, that's the kind of stuff I'm inspired by. I'm not really inspired by like someone like, as much as I respect and think he's awesome, like Jim Lee or something, like that kind of stuff is kind of boring to me. Or like I don't mind looking at it and reading it, but if that was the route I was taking, I would get bored. I wouldn't be It would be uninteresting to me to try to work towards like this state of like perfected artwork. It's just not interesting. And you know, everybody's different. Some people do like that really high refinement and polish to their work, but I just, even when I do that, it's just like not my favorite. I mean, it's kind of like I like to kind of go back and forth a little bit, but you know, I don't know. There's something about the raw energy, and especially now I'm doing all this kind of research on like punk rock and stuff. So that's kind of feeding into it as well, which is kind of the same aspect. You know, use what you have and make what you can. You know, but whatever you do, don't, you know, stop moving forward, basically. So that's kind of my attitude these days.
yeah, yeah. And you definitely touched on that in that interview you did with Kevin Cross last week.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and actually, there's another interview I did this weekend too. I was on Chris Comics with Chris, that guy's show,
yeah.
Chris Martinez, and it was actually a really cool interview, and I touched on some of that stuff too. So I definitely direct people to check that out if they're interested. He really, it was nice to be asked to be on a show, and you know, we had a great conversation. So.
You just reminded me that I need to get back to him as well because he shot me a message the other day after he'd been
Yeah.
speaking to you. Thank you for the good words. I can only assume.
Yeah, yeah, he's a cool dude. I enjoyed having conversation with him for sure.
Nice. I look forward to hopefully chatting with him again to know him. He seems like a cool dude.
Hmm.
That's right though. Like it's funny. One of my friends at the moment sort of reminds me of what you're doing in a slight sense, where he's working on his comic, but he's again sort of under the pump with all of his work, and he had an unfortunate series of events earlier this year in a comic book that he was working on. Got canned by a publisher who deemed it that what he was working on was too similar to a comic that they had, um,
Hmm.
which is really unfortunate because it meant he had to stop they sent him a cease and desist essentially for his own creator-owned project, and he had vocally mentioned that it was almost a direct homage to that comic book. So because of that, they sent him a cease and desist, which I think is absolutely stupid because they're doing fine regardless of him doing his own little project. But he had quite a back catalogue of books which he now can no longer sell, and he is doing comics. You know, he has been doing them for ages, has now had to come up with something new. And because of that, he sort of wants to push out the content as quickly as possible to sort of catch up. I assume that's why. So he's now actually skipped the entire layout and sketch process and is just doing everything from inks.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just inking on the page straight off the bat, which to me is absolutely insanity. But the output that he's had by doing that, I mean, and the pages don't look half bad. I know he could do better if he spent more time on them, but the amount of output, like he did 20 pages in 10 days, and I just think that's absolutely bonkers. But it sort of makes me think about what you were saying. Like, you are limited with the time, so you're starting to become less precious with the work that you're doing, but obviously you're getting really cool results with it. Like you said, getting that looser style, and I think that's probably a really important lesson for anyone who, like you said, sometimes can be really meticulous with their artwork. To become less precious can be such a freeing experience, and you can get some really, really cool results.
Yep. And I'm kind of, I don't know. I feel like I kind of thrive on that kind of energy, and I'm really inspired by processes like the Marvel method and stuff, and just kind of that quick style. It's just interesting to me, and I feel like as I go with it, like I'm just gonna get better and better, So like the quality is gonna start matching. Even, I mean, it depends on how I go about it, because I might again like intentionally keep it kind of rough, but also like I think I won't be able to help but have my quality increase as I keep doing this every month. So I don't know. I'm excited about it. And one thing too that is really cool is like as I was like reading the comic over, like I see all the imperfections, but it's different. Like it doesn't bother me. Like the time, most of the comics I've made, like the time it takes for somebody to read it would be like 3 minutes or less, and it's like, you spend so much time. Like I could have spent like way more time on this comic and it still would have took 3 minutes or less to read, so like now the time it takes to make it is a little bit more proportional, and not so crazy compared to the time it takes somebody to read it,
Yeah. And if your art is complementing the story and the story is delivering the message that you want it to convey, then you've hit all the boxes anyway. Like, yeah, that's awesome. And you're already moving on to the next ones.
Yes, sir. So what about you, man? How's your week been?
My
2 weeks.
My 2 weeks have been absolutely bonkers. For anyone who hasn't seen any of the videos I've put on YouTube or have been completely spamming the internet with, I launched my Kickstarter a week and a half ago now, and that has been all time consuming, which has been sort of a good thing and a bad thing. Because I've been spending so much time creating marketing material and contacting people and whatnot. But aside from that, I've also managed to. I finished page 3. No, sorry, I finished page 4 of Monkey Junk and caught up. I was behind a little bit, which was sort of daunting because my goal was to have it finished by last Monday. I didn't finish it until Wednesday, which was concerning, but I still managed to get it done. I just sort of had to persevere a little bit and try and juggle some things around. And then we had a public holiday on Friday. So thanks to that, I actually managed to finish up page 5 as well. So I'm a page ahead of myself this week, which is awesome.
I have to say, like, though, like looking in on the back end, you guys got to go support them over on Patreon. You'll be able to see all this awesomeness. But
Yeah,
like these pages, like I mean, the first chapter was amazing to me. But like it's like you just keep like moving, like getting better and better. Like these pages are ridiculously good. Like they're just so cool.
thanks, man. Thank you. That means a lot. Um, I definitely feel like I'm improving as I'm doing more pages, and like you said before, the more you do, like you're just naturally going to progress, and I can see those progressions. Um,
Hmm.
and there are sort of deliberate pushes for me to do things I wouldn't normally do. So drawing big, large environments and drawing monsters and anthropomorphic people and that sort of stuff that pulls me out of my comfort zone, forces me to learn and grow and get a little bit better. Um,
Hmm.
but I think I'm also going to attribute a bit of that to becoming comfortable with the world that I'm drawing as well. It's I mean, at the beginning, like I've always enjoyed drawing these characters, but now they feel very familiar. So continuing on into like the next chapter just feels it's just sort of naturally the next step.
Yeah.
So drawing it's not the well, coming up with the ideas isn't the daunting thing anymore. It's just making sure that I deliver the story properly now. Everything else sort of seems to fit in a little bit easier. There's still some
Yeah.
challenges. There's still been a few pages which have tested me a little bit more than others. Um,
I mean, that's the beauty though of like working on one project. Though that's one thing I'm not good at working on one project because I'm just like super I don't know, I'm crazy, but like um I do see the benefits, you know, and it's like that's the thing. It's like once you've now created the world, so now like your efforts are going totally into a world you've already created,
yeah,
and now on the second book, the nature of your comic is you still have to do a lot of world building as you go because there's all these different dimensions and whatnot. But like you've got a big chunk of it taken care of that you don't even have to think about as much anymore, and you can put more focus into the storytelling and maybe a couple extra characters or something or an environment that you didn't, but you don't have to develop all of it now.
yeah, and I'm noticing that in like one of the most recent scenes in the donut shop where I could have just left it as like the characters were in there, and I thought this would be a really great opportunity to throw in some of those additional characters, and I
Hmm.
wasn't really forcing myself to go really crazy on the character design. It was just like I had an idea and then I just sort of sketched it out, and then just as I inked it, I sort of just created those characters, and I was like, yeah, cool, they fit. I might have tinkered a little bit more with their outfits just to
Hmm.
connect that to or to suit sort of the area that they're in. But for the most part, like it was kind of easy to just like I knew pretty much in my head what I wanted them to look like, and the same goes like for the architecture. I've got a solid idea in my head of what it looks like, and I've been sketching heaps and really referencing a lot of stuff over the past year.
Yeah.
So putting all of that together just has it's more like I've got the blocks now. I've just got to build it.
Yeah. Nice.
Whereas, yeah, I think if I'd done this last year, like if I'd continued doing this last year, I'd still be looking for the blocks while I was trying to build it at the same time.
Hmm.
So it's yeah, it feels like a really smooth process, and issue 2 seems to be coming along a lot easier. And I think too, this one's 100% digital. Um, I think I talked about this in the last episode, but um I have a real set process now of how I do my book, where I've got all my pages are already laid out in Illustrator. I'm doing my lettering directly in there as well, so I can see the book all at once, and I can update it
Hmm.
with the lettering as I'm working on it too. So if I need to make changes and whatnot, I can do that like literally on the fly rather than having to sort of go back and forth like I would if I was working traditionally. Yeah, working 100% digitally now is probably the best decision I made in regards to the output, the quality, um, and being able to, like for social media wise, being able to take screenshots and do process pictures and, like go all the way backwards to the original sketch and upload that with all the, finished artwork. And um, it's just so much easier. It's so much tidier. It's a comfortable process, I suppose.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I'm ahead, which is really nice, but I should be working on page 6 right now, but instead I'm working on, funnily enough, you say, I'm working on a side project.
Oh, really?
But it is monkey junk related. So I'm actually working on, this is going to be a comic book strip purely for Instagram. And
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I've talked about this, but this is,
Yeah.
I'll just open it up. So this is about a character called Greg, which is essentially just a robot head. And it's just a quick 4-panel strip with jokes. So I'm now creating the assets now that I've got a little bit of extra time. So I
Mhm.
did all the head sketches last night, and now I'm just creating this background, which is going to be a scrolling background. So once this is
Cool.
done, it'll just scroll around in the background to make each panel feel different.
It reminds me of Deadpool because I haven't read the Deadpool comics, but I do know that at least in one of the iterations, there's like it gets crazy. There's like a Deadpool dog and a female Deadpool, and there's a head Deadpool. I think it's literally called Headpool or something.
Yeah, cool.
And it's supposed to be like kind of funny and stuff. And
Yeah,
um,
I think Headpool comes from like the zombie series that they did, and it's
oh,
just
maybe that's what it is.
yeah, but yeah, he does very much look like that.
So that's a good thing though, because like it's not that, but it'll probably remind people of that, and that's just one more little hook to get people to be interested, you
Yeah,
know?
definitely. It's funny, like you bring that up. I've seen a lot of people complain or even like mention to me at conventions how when they do a piece of artwork that someone goes, "Oh, that reminds me of Deadpool," or "That reminds me of Sailor Moon," or whatever. And like it bothers people. Like this is like that's a really good thing because if people are actually trying to relate to the work that you're doing to something that
Yep.
they already know, it means they're trying to
Yeah.
connect to what you've created. So
Yeah.
seeing that makes me sort of excited that maybe people will think it's Deadpool and then they'll read it and go, "Oh, this isn't Deadpool, but that was still funny."
Exactly. Yeah, I never have any problem. I'm happy with people noticing, like you said, like, it's funny, like some people will like complain about like, oh, you always get that question, what kind of pen do you use? And like I have never gotten that question yet. So that's a good sign if you're getting that question. That means they love your art so much that they feel like the pen is what is making the difference, and so it's like I want to get to that point where people are like, what kind of pen do you use? Because that means I'm making something cool.
Yeah, like you figured out the magic pen secret.
Yeah.
You've achieved a magic pen artist skillery.
So, what's going on with these Kickstarter stories, man? What's happening? You need to definitely go over to Monkey Junk Chapter 1 on Kickstarter and
Yeah,
back him. He's
yeah.
about kind of close to halfway there, but
We
we
actually
need to kick this up.
we officially hit the halfway mark about a couple of hours ago. So we're officially halfway, and I'm pumped.
Nice.
This is my second official Kickstarter, and this is like I suppose we did the D100s anthology book, but I mean Mike really took the reins on that one, so I don't count that as far as like the stress goes as a Kickstarter. But this one
Hmm.
has been so stressful and hard. But the amount of support that I've had from people has been insurmountable. And I just want to, while I'm here on the record, thank everyone so far for all of their support, whether you actually back to the Kickstarter or whether you've just shared it or even just said, hey, it looks cool. All of that means the world to me. And yeah, if you guys haven't checked it out, I've put a link in the description already so you guys can actually check out the Kickstarter. So for anyone who's read Monkey Junk online on Webtoons or has heard me talk about it in videos, like, you guys can check it out. I'm really excited about it. This is I'm trying to sort of convey to people that by backing this Kickstarter, it's not just this once-off thing. It's supporting the ongoing series, which my hope is, if this Kickstarter funds, I'll be able to put some of those funds away to pay for the next lot of books, so I don't have to keep coming back to Kickstarter. I want this book to be able to fund itself over time.
Right.
But I mean, like, if this Kickstarter doesn't get funded, which would be extremely upsetting if it didn't, but if it didn't, I would just put the money together myself somehow, whether I have to steal it from my mum's purse or, get a loan or whatever. Like, I would make it happen anyway. I would get the money, print the books, and I would just set up an online store and people can pre-order them there. And I would get in touch with everyone from the Kickstarter and say, hey, we didn't do it, but here they are, get involved. Kickstarter makes it so hard too, because you've got to incorporate every little bit of cost. You've got to have the additional rewards to make it sort of worthwhile for other people, which creates additional costs. So by the time I came up with the end figure, which is $3,000, which some people said, should be easy. To me, $3,000 is still a lot. And I feel like that's a deterrent to some potential backers. Like, I'm asking for too much.
No, I doubt it. I don't think so at all. I think I don't. That's not even a high number. Like, I don't know. I don't think that's a deterrent at all. I don't think people look at how much you're going for and think, oh, I can't back this because he's going for too much. Like, that doesn't compute to me.
Yeah, like, it probably is just me trying to rationalize, why it might not be successful or why I'm not getting like my last Kickstarter funded within like 24 hours. And although I didn't want to get my hopes up, I kind of was like, that would be cool if this second one came about in the same way, but it obviously hasn't. And it's like, oh, why? Yeah, I'm trying to figure out like what the difference is between the two Kickstarters. And like this one, the book's finished, it's ready to go to print. The other one, the book wasn't even done. But everyone jumped on so quickly. It's so weird.
Well, there's two key differences between the two Kickstarters that I think might have something to do with it. I don't know if I'm right or not. I don't know if you want me to get into them now, but I could tell you privately if you don't.
No, go for it. Go for it. I mean, this episode is about, chatting about crowdfunding. Okay. Go for it.
All right. Well, in the first one, you were I'm pretty sure you were either in the middle or you had just finished doing 100 Days of Making Comics, correct?
Yeah, I wasn't far off. Yeah.
So you had that whole momentum going, and there was a lot. It's kind of weird, but the 100 Days of Making Comics community, maybe it's just me, but it seems like it's been less. There's been less of an excitement surrounding it these days. And also, you haven't been making videos, except for this, series. You haven't been doing a lot of videos, like, moving up towards it. So it's like, the last time you had all this momentum. And so it was like, once you announced the Kickstarter, there was already the excitement was there, and there's that. The second thing that I notice is I couldn't back for a physical comic because it's just out of my price range. And if there's any book that I'm motivated to buy, it's this one, you know. So you know, I'm not saying that it should be cheaper or anything. You have to ship to America. Like, that's
Yeah.
expensive. That's ridiculously expensive. So I get why it's at that price, and it's worth that much money. But I mean, it literally priced me out. I can't I can't afford it. You know, it's not because I don't want to. It's just because I literally can't. And so the difference in price for just one physical copy, that's the bread and butter right there. So that's what people are probably most looking for, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Um, so if people are, financially challenged as I am, it might be a little harder to kind of be like, okay, I'm gonna stretch and try to make sure I can pay for this one, even though it's a little bit tight, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I totally sympathize with that because I've been in the same boat countless times
Mm.
where I haven't been able
Yeah,
to
being in
afford.
Australia, that's your story all the time, I'm sure.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So like shipping is just a nightmare. And like I have noticed that, you know, seeing like some of those pledges come in from the US in comparison to Australia, like even the Australian ones, like when I see those come in with shipping, like even to me, I'm like, poor, like that's still so much money
Really.
to spend on one single comic. Um,
Mhm.
but the way I want to remedy that is like honestly, I probably should put this in the Kickstarter somewhere. I just couldn't figure out where the best place to put it would be. But any backer who orders a physical copy, like it's my intention to give them more than just the comic anyway. Like I'll probably be throwing in like a postcard and some stickers and like thank you notes and stuff like that as an additional thank you. So regardless of what they pledge to, like everyone's going to get a little bit extra than what they've already pledged to as a surprise. I mean, like anyone who watches this now is not going to be surprised, but you know, like if you've got something in the States and you just get this one measly comic in comparison to going, oh, here I've got all these extra things. Like I had no idea. That makes me feel better about my purchase. Like that's what I'm hoping to deliver. Um,
Well, that's actually a strategy that I've seen. Think I first saw it with Samurai Ox, aka Mr. Noah, and some other people did it after that too. But they put it out there in front, like, and told people, made them very aware. It wasn't a surprise, and it kind of was like meant to be like, hey, if I know the shipping is kind of crazy, but for overseas, uh, orders, we're going to be adding a few extra things that don't change the shipping amount. They're just a couple little prints and stuff. So you're kind of getting a bonus because we know that shipping is crazy.
yeah, I might need to look into doing something to add that in, just so people are aware. Because I thought about doing it, I just wasn't sure where the best place to do it would be because I don't know how much people actually read through the Kickstarter descriptions. So a lot.
Well, one thing too is like I'm looking at my email right now, and I'm not looking at the wrong email. I'm not sure, but from what I can tell, I don't think I've gotten any email updates from your Kickstarter, which that's kind of a big part too. Like,
Yeah,
I know usually when people run a Kickstarter, I get tons of emails from them.
yeah, I have done an up. I think 2 or 3 updates so far, and I was intending on doing an update after this episode actually. So
Okay, cool.
yeah, yeah. But
I'm probably just looking at the wrong email then. I check my email like once every 2 weeks, maybe. So,
yeah, there's definitely been a couple of updates. Just talking about like additional add-ons and even just like a thank you. So I was going to do another post just to celebrate the halfway mark, and I was going to do another one with a bit of behind the scenes art for chapter 2, so people can check it out if they haven't already.
mm,
Um, yeah, but one thing that happened last week is I sent it, sort of in my flurry of, worrying that this wasn't going to go well. I sent it to a few friends and said, "Look, tear it apart. Tell me what do you think could be a concern or an issue?" And one of my friends pointed out, he's like, "Your videos are really cool, but for someone who does vlogs all the time, I'm really surprised that you're not in the video."
Yeah, I know. I
Like,
said that to you.
yeah, well, you weren't the only person. There was other people too, and I was like, like having heard it multiple times, I was just like, yeah, I felt like such an idiot after that point. So I
I
did.
don't think that's, but again, like in when I sent it, like it's weird because usually that would be a big deal to me, but that actually, the way you made your video, it actually was an exciting video. Like it
Yeah,
actually didn't end up bothering me as like I would think it should. It was actually very visually engaging, and especially the fact that the fonts were so big, like it was in your face, it was obvious. I don't think that's actually a deterrent. I mean, to be honest, you're at the halfway point right now. I mean, it's not going the way your first Kickstarter went, but you are at the halfway, and um, you got 11 days to go. Usually, you get a bump in the end. I'm pretty confident that this is going to happen. It's just not happening as quick as the last time,
yeah, yeah.
for a few
Uh,
different things.
I'm actually reading the comments. A few people put in. So Anteater Art has jumped in. He said, "A lot of people don't know this, but I've heard that Kickstarter helps out people with search engine optimization on their first campaign as a way to hook you to their platform."
Mm,
He said his first Kickstarter got so much more activity and funded, whereas his second one just bombed out.
mm.
So,
That's
like,
interesting. I have never heard that, but that makes sense.
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, like, it could, like, that wouldn't surprise me if that was something they did. Um, Even some of the bigger creators, like was it, Jason Brubaker, like he's noticed drops in his later Kickstarters, and I think even Jake Parker had something like to do as well. So
And to me, like this Kickstarter is like it's weird because the other Kickstarter and book was really cool, but that was like a one-off, This
yeah,
Kickstarter is like super important because this is the jump off for something that's much bigger than the last one was for, like this is what your plan for the next 5 years involves monkey junk.
yeah, exactly,
So,
yeah, yeah. I think as time goes on, as more issues start to come out, like once we finish the sixth issue, we'll bring the trade out, and hopefully that will be the next Kickstarter. Hopefully there won't be any more kicks. Hopefully I won't have to kickstart anything else in between that. Um,
mhm.
by that point, like six comics, that's 120 pages of comic books that'll be like online on webtoons that I'll be pumping out through like Instagram and everything. By then, there should be a significant following, so
Mhm.
there'll be a much bigger difference in between the two, and it'll be really cool to actually see what that difference is and look back now and go, wow, I was only at the very beginning stages, and now here I am 1 to 2 years later, and things are so different. So that, like you said, the longevity, and having that persistence to push through to that stage, I think it'll just continue to grow, hopefully, and people will eventually start to see, what I see the comic as. Because in my head, I can already see beyond. I know what's going to happen. I know how fun and exciting it's all going to get, and how crazy things are going to get. No one else sees that yet. So to me, it's like, why aren't you guys into it yet? Like, this is going to be awesome. But until you guys can see that it's as awesome as I know it's going to be, it's hard to gain that.
Oh yeah, I mean that's always the case. You have to believe in your project and be consistent and push it out long before other people get to that point. And you're doing that, like, and
Yep.
you're kind of kicking ass with it too. To be honest, as much as this isn't going as quickly as the other Kickstarter went. I mean, you're like I said, you're kicking ass with it. So I think it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, thanks, man. Like, I hope it works out. I just gotta keep my chin up, I suppose. It's
Absolutely.
it's
And
easy
I
to be in
think,
my own head about this, and there's been some like freak out moments, but luckily I've got some good support around me, like you and Mike, and my wife and Lee and Luke and all that. So like it's been good being able to vocalize it. Otherwise, I'd probably just be pulling my hair out at this stage.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's gonna be good stuff. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm pretty confident that this is gonna end up funding. It's just not as quick as the last time,
Yeah,
but I think it will.
I'm just gonna be patient.
And I've been pumping it, every video I do. I think the Kevin Cross one was the only one I didn't actually tell people, oh, go to Kickstarter, because that was kind of a different kind of video. But every video I'm doing, I'm like, all right, let's take a minute to check out, Chris's Kickstarter and stuff. And, I'm trying to get the word out the best I can. And that's to everybody else listening, if you can't back it, please, share it. It's definitely worthwhile. And you guys are subscribed or watching here, you're probably already invested in Chris's stuff to a certain level anyways. So I know you probably are doing that, but just a little extra encouragement. Go ahead and share this thing for Chris.
Thanks, man. I really really appreciate your support.
Yeah,
And yeah,
man.
like exactly what March said. Like just the sharing has been so overwhelming. Like the amount of people willing to share it, and that alone means the world. So I do appreciate everything that everyone's been doing to sort of help out, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I notice we're getting to crunch time, and we probably need to wrap this up very quickly, as Marsh has to get off to work. But
True that.
do you want to go through your goals for next week, or do you want to just do a sign off and see where we go?
Yeah, I don't know. My goals for next week, I don't really have a specific plan. I probably should, but I mean, it's always just to get as much progress on the comic done. It's kind of tricky right now because I think I know what my next steps are, but sometimes I'm not sure. Like this comic, I've kind of written to like 4 or so pages, but it's really simple. It's just the guy riding around on a skateboard or whatever, and his thoughts and stuff. And then he kind of ends in one spot, and then I don't know exactly where I'm going to go from there, and so it's a little bit tricky. I don't, and I only have a month to get this thing out, so it's a challenge for sure. But I think I know what my next steps are. This different from last week's or last month's comic. This one, the other one was like a one shot, one and done. This one's going to be a to be continued, and probably a lot of these things that I do every month are going to be, a part of a story, which actually is kind of part of the strategy, because once I get a few of them going, that means when I do the continuation of that story, it'll be less daunting because I'll have stuff that I've already created and whatnot, the world kind of created. So that's a good thing. But yeah, like as far as what my goals are, I just need to really make some progress. I kind of did the first page, but now I need to develop the writing a little bit better so I know where to go next and stuff. So yeah, I guess it's just to work on this comic as much as possible and read some more comics. This past week I read, I don't know, I didn't read that much, but I did actually last night. Quickly, I read, I got a Patreon update from Jason Brubaker, and so I read it, part of his comics. So I did read comics this week.
No, you're ahead of me because I haven't read any comics yet, as much as I really did. Yeah, my goals are just going to be really simple. I'm going to just finish a new page, so page 6 of Monkey Junk by next week, and I'm going to smash through some more of the children's books. So I have been doing that. I just haven't really sort of been talking about it. But I've inked like the first 5 pages, which is good. Now I've got to pencil out the next lot of pages and just get ahead on those. Thankfully, the client's been pretty good because I told them about the Kickstarter and they're like, oh, yeah, that's cool. So I'm like, yeah, just a bit busy. Other than that, just try and push the Kickstarter. I think I'm just going to make little changes here and there as it's going throughout. Like, so I'm going to do some updates today. Just let everyone know how things are going. And the other thing I'm going to be doing is, because I'm an absolute madman and probably shouldn't have said I was going to do it, is I am participating in Inktober this year. But I'm doing it, and I suppose like I mentioned this on Kickstarter on Instagram, but for those who didn't read it or didn't see the post, I'm going to be doing one picture every day for the next month throughout October, but it's going to be completely based around the Monkey Junk universe. And if you want to see what I'm going to be doing, there is a list on my Instagram page, but every single sketch that I do will randomly be put into all the physical rewards from the Kickstarter. So 31 lucky people will get a free sketch in their Kickstarter, regardless of whether they have a commission or not. I'll be just randomly popping them in. So
that's like a huge bonus. Like,
yeah, and I will.
If you're gonna back this, you might get some original art. That's crazy.
That's it.
And you don't have to pay like for a big tier, necessarily. So
that's it.
Awesome.
Like, you can pay the lowest tier, which I think is $8 plus postage. So anyone is eligible. They just need to be a backer. So yeah.
Nice.
I'll be doing that. I'll be smashing through the original art, and all of the art will be posted on the Monkey Junk Instagram page as well. Other than that, yeah, just trying to just keep it cool and just keep.
Well, I'll keep pumping it. I'm sure a lot of other people will, and like I said, I'm pretty confident that you're gonna get there. Being halfway there is a big deal, And again, you always get that bump in the end and stuff. I think we'll be able to make that push and make it happen.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Fingers crossed. So we'll see where we're at this time next week, and hopefully we'll be just as excited.
Yep.
Cool.
Next week it'll be on my channel too, so hopefully we'll get a couple extra people there too.
Yes, that'd be cool. That would be cool. I'll steal all of your followers. All right, man. We should wrap this up then.
Yes, sir.
Let everybody know where they can find you on the interwebs.
Well, if you want to read my comic, patreon.com/DonkeyJawProjects. It's there for a very cheap situation. And then also Marshall Lee _DJP at Twitter and Instagram.
Nice. All right, you guys can catch me on my YouTube channel right here. Hit the subscribe button below if you're a fresh visitor. Otherwise, you can catch me online at Chris McQuinlan Art on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. And at the moment, for the prolonged future, you guys can also check out my online webcomic, Monkey Junk, by checking it out on Instagram at Monkey Junk Comic. Or you can check out it leads to the Kickstarter currently, but once the Kickstarter is over, we will be building a website for monkeyjunkcomic.com.
Nice.
All right. Thank you guys for joining the stream. Thank you, everyone who's been chatting. We have been reading the comments. Thank you all for jumping in and saying hello. You're all awesome. And we will catch you all next week for another episode of Making Comics.
Yay.
Later.
Later.
See you, dude.